This is part of the home group class on the 4th of May. We had a part of a discussion about an important anniversary in Australia's history, and just listen to find out a little bit more about it. This is a map of the world as we knew it a few hundred years ago, and you'll notice what's missing from the map in its usual spot is Australia. And in those days, when people thought the world might have been flat, they used to draw monsters on the map because people didn't know what would happen if they sailed far away. Even before Captain Cook came to Australia, there were many other people have been aware of this land. We know that the Aboriginal people who've lived here for over 40,000 years, they came across from these islands here in either their canoes, and there is one theory to say that the water was very shallow, the land masses were much closer, and people were able to wade across and settle the Australian continent. Now, this part of Australia was known to explorers as they came to Indonesia and to other known islands for trade and exchange. But let's have a look at a bit of the history. And I'll just adjust that here so we can do that better. And can't do that. Anyway, 40,000 years ago, we know the Aboriginal people travelled. There is evidence of Dutch explorers. William Janszoon came to this area here. When he arrived, it was very swampy land, probably lots of crocodiles and natives who didn't want him there. So he went back and said, Australia is terrible, we don't want to go there. So that was 1606, about 1400 years ago. Then we have more explorers coming a bit later, and when you look at the map, they were visiting this part of Australia, Western Australia. Dirk Hartog has an island named after him, but he didn't have a lot to report. Then we have a look at Abel Tasman. Now, the interesting story about Abel Tasman was he actually found, you guessed it, Tasmania, but he did not find these coastlines here. And I thought that was an interesting story. Then we had William Dampier, who once again came and found the western part of Australia, and he was the first person to actually report that there were great hopping animals there. Now, as we continue our discovery of exploration, Captain Cook is a navigator and an explorer. He was not coming with a view to settling the country or taking over Australia, but he was a very good navigator, very good at mapping out his journey. This is the boat or the ship that he travelled in. As you can see, there's no antennas, there's no engine, there's no petrol, no GPS, no internet, no mobile phone. Once the Captain Cook and his crew set out onto the sea, they could have been headed to the edge of the world, to these uncharted waters. The ship was actually very very small, and he kept his crew healthy by having lots of citrus fruit and sauerkraut to avoid scurvy and his crew dying. Now, the journey. In those days, the ships relied on wind sail. So he started in England and he sailed south around South America, and this was countries people knew about in the 1770s around here. Now, once he hit this big expanse of ocean, it is called the Pacific Ocean because it is a nice, quiet, peaceful ocean, and to move the ship he had to rely on wind. Anyway, you can see he's doing a little bit of navigating, not knowing really where he's going. It looks almost like he's quite lost, but he's eventually found the southern island of New Zealand, and he sailed around it there. And of course, he sailed across more of that ocean and landed at the first sighting of land, I think, was Point Hicks in Australia. Now, he did stop at, I believe it was Botany Bay for a little while, just checking things out, and it all looked pretty good. And news reports said he was very friendly with the native people, the Aboriginal people, but there are lots of different stories about that. He ran aground here on the Great Barrier Reef because nobody knew about the Great Barrier Reef. And then he sailed on and around, and he came right up to the north there, and there he has come out there and come back to England. So it is an amazing journey of discovery in times where people honestly believed that they would go out to sea and perhaps not find their way back. Pretty interesting story. Thank you.